We are here talking about the black tax. Now, you may not know this, but the black tax is something very real. And the black tax is affecting real people with real jobs, real lives. So I'm going to talk to you about the black tax, explain what it is, and hopefully you can avoid it. Okay, so here's what the black tax is. The black tax is the extra cost that black people all over the world are forced to carry, the extra cost, the extra price of living, the extra cost of life that other races don't have to face. We can compare black and white, but it's not only black and white. It's also if you're Asian, you don't have to pay this tax. If you are, Middle Eastern, you may not have to pay this tax, etc., etc. It's a black tax. So I'm going to talk about ways that I've experienced this black tax. And this is going to be live, but then the recording is also going to be up on YouTube. So then when you see this, comment and talk to me about how you have experienced this in your life, because you might actually relate to this. I'm going to get right to the point. I'm going to keep this video to around maybe 10, 15 minutes, hopefully. But I'm going to talk about something that's actually very, very crucial. Okay. So the black tax. Here's what the black tax is. The black tax, in a practical sense, for example, let's say we have one person that gets very rich in the black community. In the African community, this is very common. So then we have like a football player, right? You see football players talk about this all the time. They sign a contract. Steve Harvey also makes a joke about this. They sign a contract, they get rich, $50 million contract, $100 million contract, $10 million contract, $25 million contract. And then what happens? The entire black family feels like because they made it, because the African community is such a communally driven culture, because one person makes it, everybody in the community or everybody in the family feels like that money means that they made it. That person got a contract for $50 million, and then your uncle quits his job and your aunt starts messaging you all of a sudden. That is one of the first ways of the black tax. What does that mean? It means, here's how this works in practice, which is why it's harder for then those black celebrities to go out and create ultra wealth for themselves. Because now, instead of investing all of that money into real estate, into business, 10%, 20%, 15% of that money that could have gone otherwise is now being reinvested, or not invested at all. It's just being given to family members who then blow it on covering their bills or living their lifestyle. But it's not invested into anything. Comparatively, if you are not black, then that extra money can go into, let me take that extra money. I'm going to buy, my parents a gift. I'm going to buy my family a gift. But then I'm going to take that extra money and I'm going to put it into a business or into real estate or into stocks. So I know that extra 15, 10% grows. So even if we are paid the same, my investments are going to compound faster than you, because I don't have to take care of my family members in the same way. The black tax. I'll tell you how this actually gets worse. I'll tell you precisely what this looks like. So then, let's say someone gets $1 million. Someone black, someone white. $1 million. And I can take $100,000 out of that. And I can put that $100,000, I can put that, so 10%, I can put 10% of my $1 million, which is 100,000, into the stock market. Now that 100,000 grows over 10 years to 500,000. So then I just made $400,000 from my $1 million. Make sense? Okay, cool. Now, let me put this on do not disturb so I'm not disturbed. That's one. Now, if that's the black person, that's the white person, sorry. So black and white, just for ease of argument. That $100,000 becomes $500,000 over 10 years. 5x. Let's say you had put it into Uber, you are an early investor, congratulations. Cool. Now, on the other side, if you are black, you have this $100,000 out of your million, and then with that $100,000, guess what it has to go to? It has to buy mom a down payment on a car, so then you get her, let's say, a Kia, right? And you get her something for $40,000. You know you have $60,000 left. Then, of course, you have to do the same thing for your dad, right? You got your mom a car, you have to get your dad a car. So now, that's $80,000 out of the $100,000 gone. No, that's still more expenses, because if the car breaks down, you're going to have to repair it, because they can afford to repair it themselves. But then you also have to bring everyone, for family vacation. And you also have to pay for their flights. And then you also have to pay for the gifts. And you're also covering food. That extra $20,000, guess what? Now that turns into 10. So then one person, their $100,000 became 10, and the other person, their $100,000 became 500,000 over 10 years. In fact, the $100,000 becomes 10,000 in less than 3 years. And the $100,000 over here, for the person without the black tax, that $100,000 becomes $1 million. Sorry, becomes $500,000 over 10 years. You see the difference? This money over here lasts a lot longer. This money over here can actually compound because that $500,000 can then become 700, can then become 100, 1 million. That then becomes 1.2, 1.5, 1.8. But this over here, that 100,000, once it goes to 10, that's it, it's done. That just becomes chump change. That can't compound then from 10,000 into $1.5 million. That doesn't work. You'll have to go ahead and earn that again. So then if you can avoid having to help everybody in your family with the first money that you get, then you can avoid this black tax. Now understand that this is just because understand it's cultural. African people are very communal, we're very sharing, we're very loving people. So it's good nature and it comes from a good place. But understand that it shoots people in the foot by being too generous, right? By being too giving, by being too communally driven. Because then now my money becomes everybody's money, but it's not like that in other cultures. Your money is your money. And you need to invest it smartly so that it compounds on itself. And then if you stop the compounding, then you actually have less to give away. Because look what happens. That $100,000, because you helped them so soon, no, you can't help anybody because that $100,000 is now 10. Versus over here, that $100,000 becomes 500. No, you can still help them, just a little bit delayed. And you still have $400,000. You can spend the 100 now, but you still have $400,000 that can still continue to compound. It's just delayed. You see, here you run out of money in 3 years. Over here, you wait 10 years, and you still have the 100, and you can give a lot more. So I'm not saying don't give, but that's what the black tax does. It fools you into thinking that you're selfish if you don't give to your black community. That's false. What you're allowing yourself to do by avoiding the black tax is to go ahead and allow money to compound. I'm going to leave this up so that you understand, because I know that someone is going to take this message and they're going to understand it finally, why they cannot give all of their money when they get their first high-paying job. You cannot give all of that money to your family. You cannot do that. That is the black tax, and it is bad. For the economy, it is bad for your wealth building. If they label you selfish, doesn't matter. It doesn't. If they label you that you don't care, you're a sellout, you get rich and switch, all these labels that we have in the African community, it is wrong because it is antithetical to compounding, and compounding is the friend of investing. So then you have to get over this black tax, which is why I'm talking about it. Okay? It's something I'm suffering from. I'm going to show you how I've been able to overcome it by the end of this video. But the black tax looks different in a different way as well. So I get to the second reason. I just shout out someone in the comments here. Cara, thank you for tuning in from Brazil. Shout out to you, Cara. I'll be in Brazil in a little while, so shout out to you, Cara. Just shout out to you. All right, take the mission, get back into things. The second way that black tax hurts you. So when it comes to real estate, the appraisal values, if someone perceives the house as being in a black community, same quality house, same quality vibe, same perhaps street sometimes. But if the home is perceived to be owned by a black owner, the value could be less. And we've seen this time and time again. We've seen this in the news. I just want you to Google home appreciation, black family versus white family, and then Google news. You don't need to believe me, but I'm showing you that this happens. Which means that if you are perceived as one way, your home, your actual asset, could be devalued. This happens in single family houses. Now, in commercial real estate, this doesn't matter because only the cash flow of the property is the only thing that matters. You don't have an appraisal. You're only looking at how much does it take in versus how much do you pay out. Expenses, net operating income, that's all that matters in commercial real estate. It's just numbers, no emotions. So then the solution, you can imagine from that, would be obviously get into commercial real estate if you're a black person. But if you're looking at single family houses, it's hard to understand my English accent. Here's what I'm going to do. I am going to put subtitles when I re-upload this onto the channel. I promise you. So there will be subtitles there. Cool? Cool. I'm going to keep going. So, what was I saying? If you are in a single family setting, your single family house could be devalued because you're black. Now, how expensive could that be? That could be as much as $100,000. That is how expensive the black tax can be. Think about that. If you are simply black, you could lose $100,000 in equity that you can borrow from. So then let's talk about borrowing. Let's say your house is valued at 500 and my house is valued at 400 because I'm black. This is a black tax. That means I can only borrow on the equity that's available. So then let's say we both have a $250,000 mortgage on the property. But you have equity up to 500 and I have equity up to 400. That means I can get access to maybe a little over $100,000, but you can get that extra $100,000, which means that you can borrow almost twice as much as me on a same property, same street, same building, but just because our houses are valued differently. Which means if you have twice as much capital to apply into a business or into a deal, you can grow twice as fast, or you can access twice as bigger deals. Do you see how that is a major problem? That happens in single family houses all across America. I'm saying not in commercial, but in single family houses. I'm not making this up. You can Google it for yourself. Don't believe me, but I'm showing you what happens. Again, these are examples of the black tax. The first one I covered was family, or nature of sharing and helping out each other sometimes hurts us, and we need to correct that. The next message is, if we're looking at the real estate and we're looking at the real estate chessboard, then understanding that single family houses being devalued is a significant black tax on our wealth. Which means that the duty for you then is to go ahead and shift to commercial real estate. Now, if you're in single family houses, try to get into places, for example, Section 8, for example, Airbnbs, for example, understanding that perhaps you, if you are going for the appraisal, you want to remove everything out of the house that indicates that the house or the building could be owned by a black person. These things are games that black people have to play. Understand the game so that you don't get taxed the black tax. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm just showing you how you can avoid it. Because I don't want your wealth to be stunted just because you're black. Of course it's not fair. Of course. There should not be a term such as the black tax. Of course. But it exists, and so we have to talk about it. The third way. Remember the first one I covered is when one person starts to earn money, everybody in the family, this happens in the African community, everybody in the family feels like that money is a part of their financial plan. One person joins the NFL, one person joins the NBA, one person gets rich as an entrepreneur, one person becomes an investor, one person signs a deal, and all of a sudden, parents, siblings, uncles and aunties start coming out of everywhere to try to get money from that person. That additional burden that other people don't have that they can put in towards investing allows them to grow faster. The second way is how your assets might be depreciated because of your skin color. Now, can you prove this legally with redlining? No, you can't. You could just say because of these factors or that factors, this happened, but today, you can't really prove it, okay? And the third method, the last black tax that I see happening right now, last black tax, is when it comes to the location of what's available. This is such a cool point, I'll show you. So I want you to look around where you are, wherever you are in the world. Or this is specifically to America, but I want you to look around. What I notice in America is that in black neighborhoods, there are no parks. So there's no places where kids or adults can go and sit down and think. But then in black neighborhoods, you have a lot of fast food, check cashing places, liquor stores. There are no banks, local banks in black neighborhoods, no parks. So you have nowhere for the black population to get money, build their own credit, own their own things, and you also have no place for them to think. This is a black tax. This is the pressure of being black in America. Because if you don't have a quiet place to think, then you can't sit down and come up with creative ideas to shoot to the next level. Listen right now to my neighborhood. It is quiet. That is intentional. I don't want to live in a noisy place because I need to be able to think. Listen. Nothing, right? You don't hear people shouting. You don't hear music playing. You don't hear that. It's quiet. And so then, if you are looking at this black tax, this is how you avoid it. You listen and look at the neighborhoods that you're in. If I were to show you, I'm looking at the garden outside of the window, right? Look right there. There's maybe 2 or 3 gardens in my neighborhood because I don't want to live in a place where I'm unconsciously paying or trying to overcome so much stimuli that other people don't have to do, other races don't have to do, just because they live in different places. Look all across America, this happens. And you don't notice it until you start looking, right? You don't notice it until you start looking. Look for parks. Look for where they put Starbucks. Look for where they put Chick-fil-A's. On the other hand, look for where they put Popeyes. Right? Look at where they put the McDonald's. Right? Look at where they put these stores. Right? It's very distinctive, the demographic that they have. And what happens is that it comes out in the results because your diet is poor, ends up being poor in these neighborhoods. Obviously, if you have a poor diet, you have poor thoughts, you have poor health, which means that you spend more on health. You don't have as much energy, which means that you don't have energy to compete in the marketplace, to go there and get skills. You're distracted, and then you come home, you're distracted, trying to get back all of the things that you lost throughout the week. You come home, you watch TV because life is chaotic outside of the home. So you try to get that back with television. You see how that's a problem. This is another example of the black tax. Now, I could keep going on and on, but I think you're starting to see the picture. This type of black tax is very problematic. It stops compounding, it stops creativity, and it stops your wealth from growing significantly. If you understand these principles, I want you to start thinking about them. Here's what you can do in your own life to avoid these different types of taxes as a black person. One, I want you to sit down and have a conversation with your family. Explain to them what the black tax is and why it is not selfishness for you to put your money into investing so that money can compound. Tell them that there might be a budget come in where you can help, but it won't be the majority of your earnings. A majority of your earnings will go towards investing, and that's that. If we run out of money to help, that's it. I can't help. Because if I tell you I have a lot of money, but I don't have any to help you, that's it. Because the rest of it is going into compounding. Understand, most millionaires today are not inherited millionaires. They didn't get money from their parents. However, here's what we don't talk about when it comes to the black tax. If you are able to stay at home in your parents' house, in a comfortable place, you're able to work outside of the garage. If you are given a gift of the down payment on your first house, that's not an inheritance either. But it does help your wealth. Remember the example that we talked about. If I don't have to work for that $10,000 and my parents can give it to me to go and buy my first house, that's not an inheritance technically, because you didn't give me the house, but you did give me the 10 grand so that I could go and buy my first house. That's black tax. Instead, look at that, for example, compared to if I have to work for that $10,000 and then also I have to then move out at 18 and then I also have to help you with your bills. Just imagine being gifted 10 grand versus having to work and pay you, how much harder this is over here. It takes a longer time. And that time is time that you lose when it comes to investing. That's the black tax. You see how crazy that is. So then this is why you can buy your house over here or over here at 21, at 22, and this person is trying to get their life together at 30, at 34. That's what happens. Because These people don't have to pay the black tax, but these people do. These people are out at 18 and they have to help their parents and they don't get help with their first house. That's the black tax. So then how can you avoid that as a parent? Sit down with your family. As a parent, what you can do is understand that your kids' money is not your money. Allow their money to compound. Tell them, I don't want money from you. Help me when I'm 70, when I'm 80. Right now, you need to take everything that you're earning and go and let it compound for your kids, not for me. That's what you do as a black parent. The next thing, when it comes to your wealth, think about commercial real estate. You're not playing the same game as everybody else. Commercial real estate is blind. Look for businesses where you do not have to be the face of your business. YouTube automation is one of them, right? Machines are one of them. Vending machines, card machines. Look for businesses where you don't have to be the face. Real estate investing is another, right? If you can make partners with other people, use this to your advantage. Yes, these are some of the tactics that you have to use because that's the America that you live in, that we live in. And the last thing is I want you to intentionally seek out places to live where you can prioritize peace. If there's a check cashing place in your neighborhood, you need to move. Too many liquor stores in your neighborhood, you ought to move. Look for places with parks. You need to have at least one park in your neighborhood or you're not in the right place. Move to where the parks are. Move to where the Starbucks is. Seek out neighborhoods where you can find peace to think so that you can avoid the black tax. All right, guys, I hope that helps. I'm heading to the gym. So I will talk to you guys tomorrow. I'm going to re-upload this video to YouTube so that if you watch it live, you can go ahead and watch the replay on the channel. If you didn't catch it, then you'll be able to see it still on the channel specifically. I'm going to upload it with subtitles too. I think YouTube actually automates them, so I make sure that those are turned on for you. I appreciate you guys very much. Your mother, she's amazing. I appreciate that. She died when I was 12, so I appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Thank you.